right now. Today is the day that you choose to change the rest of your life. It is time to turn your setback into the greatest comeback story ever told, and nobody is more capable than you. This is the Ranting Weight Watcher podcast, the future #1 weight loss podcast in the world. I am your host, Donato Russo. I hope you enjoy the show today. If this is your first time here and you enjoy the show, please subscribe and spread the word of the Ranting Weight Watcher podcast wherever you are and to whomever will listen. If you'd like to connect on social media or wherever else, check out my Linktree page, Linktree/the Ranting Weight Watcher. Let's connect today. Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 208 of the Ranting Weight Watcher podcast. If this is your first time here, I want to welcome you to the show. If you enjoy it, please consider subscribing. If the app that you're using to listen to the show allows you to write a review or rate the show, please consider writing a review and leaving a 4-star or 5-star rating. Doing this will promote the podcast growth by updating an algorithm, which in turn will make it easier for anyone else looking for a weight loss or related podcast that is using the same app as you. One of the best things you could do to support this podcast is to literally tell anyone you know that is in the same position we are all in, trying to live a healthy life. Tell them about the show. Show them how to find it. I want to give a special thanks to all of the financial supporters of the podcast. Thank you so much for considering the Ranting Weight Watcher podcast a worthy investment of your hard-earned money. If you are interested in becoming a financial supporter of this podcast, there is a Linktree link in the description of every podcast episode. When you click it, you will be taken to a website where you will see a button that says Become a Financial Supporter. Click that button and you will be given the options available so that you can choose from there. Well, let's not waste any more time. Let's get into this. Journey updates. I am up this week a half a pound. Total loss since January 2019 is 177.4 pounds. Total pounds remaining to get to the 200-pound milestone is 22.6 pounds. You guys know how I do things. This is one gain of a 3-week trend. It's got to be 3 gains in a row before I make any changes. So over the past few weeks, I have been talking to you guys about the biggest obstacle being you in your journey to success and becoming healthy. That the key to it all was that if you can get out of your own way long enough, you can accomplish anything. This ideology does not just work for weight loss, becoming healthy. It'll work for anything. But really, what are the ways we get in our own way? And so I went back in my mind to day one. And not just my ways, but I already told you guys I'm an observer of behavior. So going back to the studio days to present, of all the ways that I could possibly think of that someone could be in their own way, this is me and anyone I've ever observed. So one of the first ways that I can think of that anybody would get in their own way. So you joined a program, WW. That program offers workshops. The idea of these workshops is for you to learn rudimentary skills in how to use the program to your advantage to achieve some sort of success. One of the ways that people get in their own way from day one, from the first workshop they attend, is that they do not participate in the workshop. They think that simply attending the workshop is enough. And it's gotten even worse. It's so much more than that, because in a studio, there is still a possibility of participating without actually participating. Because there are people face to face and they can interact with you. Something you didn't plan for. Someone who's sitting next to you starts talking to you. You're participating in the workshop without having planned to do so. But it's gone to the next level, because now with the implementation of virtual workshops, people don't even have to be present in a place in order to attend one. This has advantages and disadvantages. It all depends on the person. The first indicator that people are not participating virtually is the camera's off. Now, I know WW says it's okay to have your camera off, all that stuff, but I'm telling you from my perspective. Of the percentage of people with their cameras off, the percentage of them that actually participates is minuscule. Minuscule. Whereas the people with cameras on, they're more likely to participate. People are listening to it, or they think they're listening to it, while they do other things. Who's washing dishes, preparing meals, all of these things. And if there was one moment you should give your undivided attention to, it's the workshop. What's the point of attending if you're fitting it in? What's the point of attending if it's just something on in the background? It's elevator music. How many times have you gotten in an elevator and you just start singing along with the music? Never. So you attend a workshop, you have your camera off, you're washing dishes, you're preparing meals, you're doing all these things. How much attention are you giving to what's being said? Another way someone can get in their own way from the very beginning of the journey. Their opinion gets involved. And they skip tasks because they believe, in their opinion, it's not necessary. You skip tracking. Who's got time for tracking? I don't got time for that. How could tracking my food tell me that or make me lose weight? You don't understand how my life is. I'm so busy. I can't do that. Oh, I'm not technologically inclined. I can't be bothered. These are examples of you getting in your own way. You've made your mind up without even attempting to do it. Even though the system itself says the people who make this consistent in their lives tend to be more successful. You skip weighing and measuring because in your mind you've told yourself, I know what 8 ounces of chicken looks like. I can portion it in my head. Again, your opinion holding you back. Because if you can portion in your head, you probably wouldn't need the program in the first place. Another way people get in their own way throughout this journey is you start comparing yourself to other members. there's this delusion that if you've lost more weight, you're more successful. There's another delusion that if they have lost more weight, they are more successful. Nobody knows what anybody's doing in their privacy of their own homes. So much of what comes out of people's mouths these days are designed to put them in the best possible light. You want to take their words as face value because you're in the same boat as them. Why would they lie to me? Who am I? But the same stuff going on in your head is going on in their head. The comparisons and all of these things. So the people that have been on program for years may be hesitant to tell you how much they've lost because there's a perception. There's an opinion that says, well, you've been here for 10 years and you lost this much weight? What are you doing? Perception becomes reality. So people say things about their own journey in the best possible light so that it can make them look the most successful. This doesn't just apply to weight loss. This applies to life. Social media is the perfect example of people exaggerating their lives. They post a really good selfie and make it look like they have this wonderful life. Meanwhile, they've just wasted an hour attempting to take that selfie. But you don't know that. You think they just held their hand up in the air and took a perfect selfie. And your perception of this photo is, they're living a better life than me. Who am I? I'm a nobody. Perception is reality. Another way people get in their own way in the process of their weight loss journey is being unwilling to actually change. You heard me right. They are actually unwilling to make any changes whatsoever. If you can do this with making 0 changes, why would you need to have a membership? They are hooked on food and would never admit it. That's number one. So instead, they tell the world that won't work for me. I can't just go and get rid of that food because I'll just think about it constantly and then I'll binge eat. Unwilling to actually make any changes and expecting results. Another one would be the exact opposite of that. Extreme change. You get rid of everything all at once. You go from the standard American diet to veganism. You get rid of all of the processed foods, you get rid of all of it in the name of creating results. And you go to such extreme lifestyle that it could not possibly be sustainable. If you spent a half a second to think about it, logic would tell you there is no way you can jump from where you are to where you're trying to jump. It won't work. You're going to fall on your face because the extreme changes you're making are not sustainable. Whatever change you make in your life has to be able to become consistent. What good is making huge changes if they only last a few days? I have spoken about the majority of these ways. This is not my first time talking about this. But I'm trying to take a new angle at it, because even though I've said some really good examples here, there are even more destructive ways than this. These are the most common. Like these, the ones I just spoke about, people on day one are doing them and they're only there for a couple of minutes. They're already deciding while the coach is sitting there talking what they are willing and not willing to do. Now, WW would be very okay with you making choices like that. Because what does that really mean? That means you're just going to pay the membership fee longer. And if you're paying the membership fee longer, shareholders are much happier. That's why they don't mind. That's why they give you an environment where that's basically condoned. It's perfectly okay. You're paying $50 a month. Anything you want to do is okay. And guess what? When you're complaining that nothing is working, who are they going to say is to blame? They're not going to say they are. They're going to ask you, well, what are you doing and what aren't you doing? Or you say, I'm not tracking. Well, you know what? People who track tend to be more successful. I don't weigh and measure. Well, you know, people who weigh and measure tend to be more successful. They will never say, you got to do this. It's just a suggestion. And then they make you feel warm and fuzzy on your way out the door. So you go on making choices based on how you've always made them. Even if the way you're making them is you in your own way. The most destructive methods to get in your own way. I'm going to go over two of them. The first one is being a slave to your failure. What does that mean, Don? Everyone who's anyone can easily say, I have joined X program this many times in my life. I have joined and quit, joined and quit, joined and quit. There's not a single person out there who hasn't attempted to become healthy multiple times in their life at this point. So it begins there. Let's say you walked in to a WW studio on Saturday. You sign up. You go to the Weight Watchers meeting. You go to the workshop. You leave feeling motivated. Hours later, you're making a choice you perceive to be a failure. Is it considered your first failure? No. Every failure from your past is going to come up every single time you fail. This is what I mean when I say a slave to your past failures. Every single time you perceive that you have failed brings up from the graveyard every other attempt. Every single one. And every single attempt and every single failure is condemning you as a person. You're never going to do this. What are you kidding people here? You don't want this. You can't do it. You can't handle this. You don't have what it takes. You never did, and you never will. Look at all of the failures. Look at what you've accomplished. Your perception is what dictates this version of getting in your own way. We're going to take a break. Don't go anywhere. I now present to you the Ranting Weight Watcher Accountability Creed. If you choose this day to say this creed, you are accountable to me, the author. You are also accountable to all of those before you who have taken the creed, and all of those after you who will take the creed. But most of all, you are accountable to yourself. Now recite with me the Accountability Creed. Nothing can stand in my way because I choose to be unstoppable. My challenges crumble in my presence because I choose strength when I am weak. My insecurities have no power over my life because I choose confidence in the face of fear. I own every last one of my mistakes because I choose growth over mediocrity. The mirror and the scale are powerless because I move forward in spite of the result. Circumstances are not obstacles because I see solutions instead of problems. The demons of my past can no longer torment me because I choose to renew my mind daily. All things are possible as long as I believe, because if God is for me, who can be against me? This is the creed I declare each day. It is about what I do, not what I say. I will learn the work that needs to be done. I will never stop, even when I've won. I will work consistently, no matter the cost. I refuse to believe that all hope is lost. I will work when I want to. I will work when I don't. I will work when they are cheering. I will work when they won't. I will work when it's easy. I will work when it's hard. The atonements that I've made are made with no regard. I will work when it's cold. I will work when it's hot, because choices have consequences, justified or not. When I think I know it all, I will start back at one, because regardless of what I think, the work is never done. And from this moment forward, when times are tough, I choose to believe that I am enough. And we are back. Thanks for sticking with me. If I fail yesterday, you have to get to the point where you realize there's no making up for yesterday. You can look at yesterday, you can see What could have possibly caused this to go wrong? What was going through my head at the time? How could I have done things differently? What is my plan for the next time? If these are the ways you're looking at your past, then congratulations, you are probably going to learn something from the failure. Because the only good thing about failure is that there's an opportunity to learn something about yourself. The question becomes, will you make the change necessary to prevent that failure in the future? That is the only thing you can do with looking at the past failures. You can look, you can analyze, and you can learn. If you are doing anything other than those three things, you're wasting your time. The only thing that the past is good for is to look, learn, and make a change. If you're looking and condemning, you are wasting your time, and you are in your own way. There are people that love to beat themselves up. They love to tear every bit of themselves apart because of the anger issues from their past failures. The worst way to be in your own way is being a slave to your past success. I'll say that again. Being a slave to your past success. I've talked about this before. This is not my first time talking about this. How is someone a slave to their past success, Don? When I was 26 years old, I was 460 pounds. I had gastric bypass surgery because I was desperate. Thought I was going to die. In 1 year, I lost 183 pounds. Then over the next 15 years, I waste my life gaining 126 of those pounds back. And every day, I wasn't back to that number, knowing I really didn't make any changes. Every moment, I stared at a result. It was a direct full reflection. Well, you used to be 277 pounds. You're back to 300. You're a failure. Well, you used to be 277 pounds. You're at 320. Congratulations, failure. You had once lost 183 pounds and you are blowing it. You failure. Congratulations. It's been 15 years and you're 403 pounds. You've essentially made the manipulation of your body, your decision to have surgery, a failure. This is how someone is a slave to their success. You become so obsessed with what once was. Your perception of who you used to be. That every day after that you don't return to being that person, you are a failure. You're not just a failure. You're scum. Worthless. Unworthy. A nobody. Every day that you are not back to who you believe was so important. That's how you are a slave to your past success. I don't know how many of you listening to me know who Bill Walsh is. Bill Walsh is one of the most famous coaches in NFL history. He coached the 49ers team that was a dynasty in the 80s. Won 3 Super Bowl rings as the coach and created a system of offense called the West Coast offense, which still to this day, generations upon generations later, head coaches are adopting and slightly tweaking to make their own version of. That is how much he transformed the game. He had a saying, and I can paraphrase it, I can't quote it directly. But he would say, you got to know it's okay to punt. What did he mean by that? It's third down. It feels like a crucial moment in the game. The quarterback calls hike. And he's looking at every option. Option 1, 2, 3, 4. He makes it through the entire progression. Nobody's open. Now the defensive line is starting to get closer. He scrambles to the left. He scrambles to the right, whichever way. He's trying to prolong the play. He's still looking. He goes back to the first progression, second progression, third progression. They're still covered. He sees a slight chance that there's a possibility in some dream world that if he throws to option 4, there might just happen to be a catch that ends up being a big play to continue this drive. He throws the ball, and it's intercepted. Instead of what should have been an enormous play, it was an enormous failure. Because the quarterback didn't know in that moment it's okay to punt. He was staking the entire game on that moment. And so Bill Walsh is saying, you got to know it's okay to punt, is because of perception. A defense that just caught an interception feels different than a defense walking off the field at fourth down when you're about to punt. Do you see what I mean here? A defense that catches an interception at a crucial point in a football game comes off the field excited. Excited that not only did they take the ball away from you, not only did they cause you to make a mistake, now they're motivated. They're like a shark that smelled blood in the water. And not only does it affect them, it affects the offense of that team that is about to come on the field. So, because the quarterback, in his mind, didn't think it's okay to punt, he took a risk and made the situation worse. Where if he had decided, if I don't see it, I'll throw the ball away and we'll punt it. And when we get the ball back, then we'll make up for it. We'll come at it a different way. We'll have a different game plan. We'll try different plays. It's the difference between putting all your value into one moment and knowing there's many more moments to come. The quarterback's perception was all or nothing. And that all or nothing led to a huge mistake that not only does it count against the quarterback, but now you have lit a fire under the opposing team. And momentum shifts. Why did I just tell you all this? I just gave you how many examples of you being in your own way. And now I'm trying to tell you that you have to know it's okay to punt. In other words, it's okay that you failed in the past. It's okay that you achieved a success and then had catastrophic failure after that. It is okay because you're still alive. You're still here. And you still can achieve success. Your game is not over. You did not lose, even though your perception is that you lost. Every failed attempt is your perception that you lost. What I'm telling you to do right now is to punt all of that. Forget it. None of it matters unless you're trying to learn something from it. None of it. None of your past failures matter anymore. None of your past successes matter anymore. As a matter of fact, nothing you've ever done ever matters anymore. If you are in the same position you've always been. Your entire perception of how things should go no longer matters. Punt it all. And try a new way. This way will remove you from the equation. This way is the way of consistency. It is to become consistent in all of the fundamental behaviors that create success. Consistency is the tunnel to everything you want. Not only is it the tunnel to everything you want, it is also the tunnel to keeping it. Your goal should be to learn consistency at all costs, no matter how mundane you perceive the task to be. The greatest athletes, the greatest coaches of any sport, they know the fundamentals of what they are doing. And they don't just know them, they live them. They practice them day in and day out without perception getting involved. Without their ideology that this might not be so important. They just do. There's no questions. This is a fundamental behavior. We do it every single day without question. It is a return to basics on a daily basis, even if you never left them. Basketball players shooting foul shots, layup drills. Every day. Baseball players, batting practice, pitching practice. Football players, studying playbooks, watching film of the opposing team. Watching tendencies, watching for lack of fundamentals to see where they can make the opposing team trip up. But what they are doing by watching that film, no matter how boring it might be, is they are practicing the fundamental behaviors that create success when they step on the football field. Their perception of what they should have to and not have to do does not matter. And how they have failed in the past and how they have succeeded in the past does not matter. What matters is only what's ahead of them and what they need to do to succeed at it. What are the fundamentals of what you are trying to do? What are the fundamentals if you are on WW? What are the fundamentals if you are counting calories? What are the fundamentals if you are counting macros? What are the fundamentals if you're on keto, carnivore, whether you're on plant-based diets? What are the fundamentals? List them, learn them, live them, whether you think they're important or not. Every single day that your eyes open, every single day that you have air in your lungs is your next opportunity. And nothing you did yesterday, no matter how successful, no matter how much of a failure, nothing you did yesterday matters anymore. It doesn't matter how many times you've won the championship in the past if you can't win in the present. You know, I've invested a lot of my time in this message. And as much as you guys would love to believe that it's complicated, it's only you getting in the way of it. Because nothing is as complicated as you make it in your own mind. There is a path to true health. And that path has nothing to do with the scale result. Whatever happens with the scale happens as a byproduct of very simplistic changes. These changes are so simplistic that they are automatically rejected by the majority of the people. As simplistic as they may be, they are the most difficult thing you will ever attempt to do. I told you many episodes how to eat. If it's part of an animal, eat it. If it comes from an animal, eat it. If it grows out of the ground, eat it. Everything else, make it yourself from scratch or don't eat it at all. What's it really all about here? It's really about a doctorless life, a life without medication, a life that you could be 90 years old and depend on nobody. That, what I just said, is so foreign to the overwhelming majority of the people because they have seen generation upon generation need help with walkers and everything else, and they've been told that it's a normal part of aging. The only thing normal about it is that's what happens when you eat the way that everyone eats. Change your life. Eat the way that I'm telling you to eat. And maybe, just maybe, we can make a generation of people that live in their 90s that have complete control of their muscular bodies and are still living just as healthy at 90 as they did at 40. And again, it all comes back to very simplistic things that are the most difficult things you will ever do. I love each and every one of you. God bless you all.